Good morning, everyone. Is this on? John saying go. It says it's on. What about now? Okay. Figuring out the mic is as difficult as figuring out how to play the organ sometimes. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for sticking around after church for this recital. I hope I've prepared pieces that will be enjoyable to all of you. I'm going to start with a piece by Jean Langlais. Jean Langlais obviously was a French composer. His life spanned 90 years of the 20th century. So he had a very long life. It's interesting that he became blind at the age of 2. So as a composer and as an organist, he was blind. He had glaucoma, and that's what caused his blindness. Since he lived in the 20th century, he was able to do extensive travel, and especially in the United States. So in the 20th century, many people would have gotten to hear him live play his music. He also was organist at Saint Catilda in Paris for 43 years. One of his predecessors, and obviously of another generation, was the famous organist and composer César Franck. So he was in a long line of great organists and musicians and composers. The piece I'm going to play is called pasticcio, and pasticcio is an Italian word which means a mess. Or as Langlais interpreted it, was a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And you'll certainly hear that in the music today. Despite his description of a little bit of this and a little bit of that, it's clearly in ABA form, so it's a standard form of music. This is Pasticcio by Jean Langlais. Okay, that was a little bit of this and a little bit of that, you could tell. Now we'll go back to the 18th century and do some music by Handel and by Bach. First, I'll do a piece by Handel, and this music is called The Entrance of the Queen of Sheba. Now, the Queen of Sheba was a historical figure. I'm sure you remember from Sunday school reading about the Queen of Sheba in 1 Kings or in 2 Chronicles. If you're bored this afternoon, you can look those up and you could read about the Queen of Sheba. The Bible tells us that she went to visit Solomon. She was from Ethiopia. She brought many gifts to Solomon, and in exchange, she wanted answers to some riddles, because Solomon was very wise, of course, and so she wanted to get answers from him. Handel wrote this music as an interlude between the second and the third acts of his oratorio Solomon. And that was written in 1749, a little bit later than perhaps his most famous work, Messiah. But also, this music was used in the opening ceremonies for the Olympics in London in 2012. Some of you might recall Daniel Craig playing James Bond went to Buckingham Palace to meet the Queen. And supposedly they parachuted into the Olympic Stadium at London. I don't think the Queen really did that, but they made it look like that's what the Queen was doing. But this music is very well known, and again, the Entrance of the Queen of Sheba by George Frederick Handel. Now for a little bit of music by Johann Sebastian Bach, arguably the most famous composer of organ music of the Baroque era. And I will be playing this morning the fugue in G major. It's also known as the jig fugue because the theme is very dance-like, and you'll hear that right from the beginning. This was first published in 1881, which if you know your dates for Bach, that was about 130 years after his death. As some of you will know, Bach's music was lost for many years, and Felix Mendelssohn was one of the people that found some of Bach's music in the churches in Germany. So this is the Jig Fugue, or the Fugue in G major by Johann Sebastian Bach. Okay, I'm heading down to the piano now, so I'll talk as I walk. And I have my good friend with me today, Christi Wilson, and we're going to play some four-hand piano duets. We have 3 hymn arrangements we're going to play this morning. You may applaud after each one if you are so led, or you can take it as a group and applaud after the third one, however the Spirit leads you this morning. These arrangements are by Mark Hayes, who is a contemporary composer, pianist, conductor. He has over 900 compositions in print. So he's a very prolific composer of today. And the 3 hymns we're going to play today are, we went from Bach, now we'll do a little bit of Beethoven. We'll do Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee. The second one is Oh, the Deep, Deep Love of Jesus, which is not in the Presbyterian hymnal, but the same tune is in the Presbyterian hymnal on page 129. It's called Come, O Spirit, Dwell Among Us. So if you want to look at the words or if you want to look at the melody. And then our third one, just because we wanted to play it, we know it's August and we're not trying to rush anything, but we're going to do an arrangement of Go Tell It on the Mountain. So enjoy these piano duets. I hope you didn't think we were done. If you did, then this is your encore coming up. We have one more organ piece today. So again, I'll talk as I walk. Then you can do another standing ovation at the end. My last piece, and this is the last piece on organ, is the most recorded gospel song of the 20th century. And that is I'll Fly Away. How many of you are even familiar with Oh, a lot of people. Okay, great. It has been recorded by lots and lots of people for many, many decades, in many variety of groups and singers, like the Chuck Wagon Gang, which is an old gospel group, all the way till today. Kanye West has also recorded this song, if you know who Kanye West is. The composer of this piece was Albert Brumley. He wrote over 600 gospel songs, and this was all in the 20th century. He grew up on a farm in Oklahoma, and this song came to him as he was working in his father's on his father's farm, picking cotton. Some of the lyrics to this piece are, "Some bright morning when this life is over, I'll fly away. To a land on God's celestial shore, I'll fly away." I first heard this organ arrangement when my teacher from college played this. Her name was Shirley King Coolidge. She grew up in Dayton. She graduated from Roosevelt High School here in Dayton. And it became somewhat of a signature song for her. She recorded it also. She was one of those many people that recorded I'll Fly Away. My sister Janet always wanted me to learn to play this piece. My dad loves this piece. I didn't have the arrangement until this summer, and a friend of mine finally found it for me. And so this is I'll Fly Away.